I'm hoping you haven't forgotten all the fun we had last year with completing the square. But just in case you have, here's a quick little refresher. The idea here is we need to get a square binomial in order to solve the problem. So right now, x squared plus 4x minus 6 is definitely not a square binomial because negative 6 is not a perfect square term. X squared is, but it doesn't matter because we can't multiply an integer by itself to get 6, let alone a negative 6. That's totally imaginary. So what we're going to do is we are going to move this negative 6 over to the other side. And we're going to do that by adding 6 to both sides. So we get 4x x squared plus 4x plus something else, because we want a square binomial, is equal to 6. Well, what? Give me a second. All right, sorry. Mrs. Curley left a candle burning in her room over the weekend. Not a good thing. All right, so we need to add something here that would make this a square binomial. Now, to find what term would go here, we know for a square binomial, this middle term is 2 times the a value times the b value. What? Okay, let's back up. So for a square binomial, we have a plus or minus b squared. So here's my a value, here's my b value. So this linear term, this coefficient for the linear term, will be 2 times my a times my b value. So to figure out what we need to get in here, what we're going to do is we're going to do the opposite of multiplying by 2, dividing by 2, and it's always going to be divided by 2. So we're going to take this coefficient of the linear term. We're going to divide it by 2. That's 2. And then we are going to square it because this, the y-intercept or the constant term will just be b squared, right? So 2 squared is 4, and I gave away the answer, right? Now, if I add 4 to one side of the equal sign, what do I have to do to the other side of the equal sign? I need to add 4. So I'm going to add 4. All right, so now we have a square binomial. And a square binomial can be factored in a plus or minus b squared. So we're going to have, I'm going to move over here. We have, what's the square root of x squared? X plus, because we have a plus for the linear term, a positive for the linear term, the square root of 4, which is 2 squared, and that is going to equal 10. So now I can just go ahead and solve it by taking the square root. So squirt it, squirt, and so we get x plus 2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 10. All right, minus 2, and so we get x is equal to 2, negative 2, plus or minus the square root of 10. But that is the exact answer. How many people really go around using, oh, I want a square root, about a square root of 2 of anything? Like, nobody does that, right? So let's also find the decimal equivalent. So we have negative 2 plus the square root of 10, and we also have negative 2 minus the square root of 10. All right, I don't know what the square root of 10 is off the top of my head, so I pulled up the calculator. So we have negative 2 plus 3.16. I'm going to round, just keep 2 significant decimal points, which means I also have negative 2 minus 3.16. So let's go ahead and combine these. So I'm going to subtract 2, and I will get 1.16. So there's one solution in a form that's a little easier to work with. And then I will also have negative 5.16. So I will have 2 answers on how to solve this problem. You might be wondering why you're completing the square instead of, oh, I don't know, just using the quadratic formula or the new one that someone discovered just last month. The answer is When you get into Algebra 2, you're going to have to be completing the square to get a quadratic equation or a quadratic function into vertex form. It will actually require you to complete the square. So that's why we're reviewing this now. Who doesn't love parabolas? I certainly do.